Let's bring in California Congresswoman Karen Bass, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, always good to talk with you. Let's get right to it. Do you agree, ma'am, with Reince Priebus here that if Tillerson is picked as Secretary of State, his relationship with Putin could be useful for the U.S.?
Absolutely not. I don't believe that at all. I think it is an inherent conflict of interest. You know, he has hundreds of millions of dollars, in fact, $500 million of deals that were interfered with Russia because of sanctions. So my concern is that having somebody with an inherent conflict of interest like that, when we as Congress or President Obama impose sanctions against Russia, that's in a direct, conflict with his financial interests. So to me, I think this is a really inappropriate appointment, and I do hope that at least 3 or 4 Republicans will cross over and not agree to this appointment at all.
What if he were to divest from his reported, I think it's $233 million valued stocks there with ExxonMobil?
Well, that's personally. I mean, this man's job, his entire life, has been for ExxonMobil. And so he divests, and then 4 years he goes back to working for ExxonMobil. I don't see how this could be appropriate in any way, shape, or form. And then what does this say to the rest of the world? So the reason why he's qualified is because he makes deals. It's real clear that Trump seems that is what's important. It doesn't matter that you have no knowledge of the subject area in which, he's proposing that you be appointed in. If you make good deals, then that makes you appropriate. So he has a cabinet that he's proposing that's filled with billionaires and generals. And overall, it just is very troubling. Not just this appointment, but the other appointments as well.
Yeah.
You're going to appoint a labor secretary who doesn't want to have employees. He wants to have robots. What does this say to the country and to the world?
Many people saying pretty non-traditional cabinet picks thus far. Mr. Trump has certainly taken some criticism for reportedly having intelligence briefings only sporadically, not daily, as the previous president-elects have done. And here's his rationale. Let's listen.
Well, I get it when I need it.
But is there some skepticism?
First of all, these are very good people that are giving me the briefings. And I say, if something should change from this point, immediately call me. I'm available on 1 minute's notice. I don't have to be told, I'm like a smart person. I don't have to be told the same thing and the same words every single day for the next 8 years. Could be 8 years, but 8 years. I don't need that.
Congresswoman, does that make sense to you? Does he have a point?
No, it's frightening. I mean, we know that this man knows very little about the world. He demonstrated that through the campaign. What I hope that they're doing in the intelligence briefings is not just giving him intelligence information, but essentially tutoring him about what is going on in the world. And you can't tell me that they're telling him the same thing every day. The world is a big place. We have threats from all over the globe. And for him to be that flippant and arrogant as to say that he doesn't need intelligence briefings when this man had no background in this at all before he ran for president. So I think it's very frightening, but I do think it's consistent. It's consistent with him not having very much intellectual curiosity and essentially, taking the presidency very lightly. I guess he's just going to triage that to his Secretary of State, whose background is he makes good deals in oil. I mean, this is very scary what we're getting ready to face in this country.
How about the topic of Russian hacking? The Washington Post report this weekend that the CIA thinks it was deliberately meant to help Donald Trump win the election. First off, is that report plausible? And secondly, do you think Russian involvement at all changed the election outcome?
Well, I mean, I certainly don't know, but if the intelligence community is saying that this is what took place, and we do have tons of, why did all of the hacking reveal just information on Democrats? Apparently, I guess there was some notion that there was hacking of Republicans too, but none of that information was released to the public. So what is one left to assume? It's very clear that Putin wants sanctions removed, and if Donald Trump is going to be his good friend, then I think that some of the sanctions that were imposed by executive order, Donald Trump could actually remove. So I think it's in Putin's interest. I think Putin is playing Trump. It's real clear that all you have to do is compliment him and say he's wonderful, and then he's your friend, and he ignores any other conflicts or difficulties with an individual so long as they give him praise.
That same Post report says that congressional leaders were briefed on this months ago in September, if not earlier. So why is the public just learning about about this now, and should Congress have made that information public before people went to the voting booths?
Well, that's very troubling to me, and I'm just learning this as well, and I wish that they would have made it public. It's very interesting that, you know, McConnell blew it off and said that it was partisan, and then shortly thereafter his wife gets an appointment to be on the cabinet. So, you know, it's really hard for me to look at Trump's appointments in a genuine way. They seem to be very self-serving. He has McConnell in checkmate by having his wife there. And so I really think that Congress needs to investigate this. I'm glad that on the Democratic side, Representative Cummings and Stallworth have agreed to go ahead and investigate. And so I'm hoping that that moves forward, that we have a commission that really looks at it. And the leadership that we have on the Democratic side, I believe, should move this forward.
All right, California Congresswoman Karen Bass at home in Los Angeles, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Chaos in Istanbul after twin